Questions of much graver and universal interest occupy our minds today.
Hello, my name is Lieutenant Eric Shine. I'm a graduate of Kings Point, United States Merchant Marine Academy. It's a sister academy to West Point in Annapolis. I graduated in 1991. I come out of Kings Point with a naval commission serving on special duty in the United States Merchant Marine. And I'm here to, excuse me, I'm here today to talk to you about a lot of things going on in the United States, many things that you've not probably thought about, not only the events of the World Trade Center from 1993, but more recent events in 2001. But when you start looking around a little bit, you also see things like the recent fortification, for want of a better word, or reinforcement of all the highways and bridges around the United States. We've seen some of the bridges fall. I think the one in Milwaukee, I don't know if it was Highway 59 or not sure of the highway, but we've seen what's happened to where if you really start to analyze and see what's going on, we're being prepared for martial law, military rule, military dictatorship here in the United States, and reinforcing those bridges is part of it because, you know, we can rest assured that no, this was all about earthquakes, and no, this was about protecting the bridges so that they would not collapse. When you start to analyze the bridges that were actually repaired, how they were repaired, the time frame that they were repaired, and in the larger context of everything else going on, I see this from my opinion as a federal maritime officer and a military officer, that they're being done to reinforce these bridges so that tanks and heavy vehicles can roll across the highway and bridges that needed to be reinforced so that this could occur. When you look at world events like going on in Georgia, former Soviet Republic, one of the satellite countries that was a member of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, issues going on not only in Russia, the Baltic Fleet from 10, 15 years ago when Russia fell, and we were concerned about many of the nukes and submarines being sold off on the black market. When you start to analyze and look at everything going on in the United States, my take on it is not only is it centered on reunification of Greater Germania, which includes Switzerland, the Netherlands, the German republics, German Federation or Germany, Liechtenstein, and other countries in that region to where they want to dominate the rest of the world, that World War II was as much a Trojan horse of sorts to where we went over and stepped on some quote-unquote Greek fire and brought it back on our boots back home. And even Eisenhower said, beware of the military-industrial complex. And we've seen how not only having a standing military, but a massive military-industrial complex since World War II has turned against the American people to where these tools, these weapons, even if you look at things like the DSM-4, which is a Diagnostic and Statistic Manual, 4 is the version, they're coming out with the 5 right now, it is a tool for diagnosing patients with a disease. But when you look at how it was created in the middle of World War I, came out in 1918, was basically a military manual that was then converted for civilians, and you look at the issues of shell shock that came about from World War I and having the troops in the trenches, the very same thing and the very same tactics and the very same type of warfare, psychological warfare, is being carried out upon the American people here in the United States, one hit after another. not knowing where the next explosion is going to come from, not knowing where the next collapse is going to occur, not knowing where you will need to shore yourself up or defend yourself. And this is being run out of Europe, the very same forces that formed first and foremost the European Economic Community that devolved into and became the European Union, have their eyes set here on the United States. And many of these people are here within the United States working on this, out of greed for themselves, some type of a political ideology, or literally as handmaidens to royal families or members of royal families from Europe. Spain and Italy have fallen. England has fallen. They're largely controlled out of and through the European Union, the ancient royal family of the Habsburgs. They are not only married into Thyssen-Krupp families, or Thyssen and Krupp, two German industrialists from World War I and World War II, are now married or intermarried to each other. They are also intermarried into the Habsburg family that has controlled European politics for the last 1,000 years. These very same individuals not only helped and actually sat on the boards to create the European Economic Community that devolved into the European Union, they control it, and they want to create an American Union, a union between Canada, the United States, and Mexico to form this new continental superstate. And if you read books like Philip Bobbitt's The Shield of Achilles and other books, it's outlined in many of these books, although not explicitly, as I am explaining it to you here. They do not only lay out history, but they even argue for restoring a monarchy here in the United States. And there's other works on this. And if you start to look at things like the Manhattan Project that went on in World War II, they actually, for the Manhattan Project that built the nuclear devices that we used in Hiroshima and in Japan to quote-unquote end the war, many argue that we didn't need to use them, that we used them to just see what would happen because the war was pretty much over at that point. The Manhattan Project was a social engineering project, and you can look to ties to not only Disney and Disneyland, but also the outsourcing of military hardware through the theme parks by Disney and or his heir apparents, the corporations that have taken it over. But when you look at the Manhattan Project, they built entire cities in the United States, like in Tennessee, to suck off of the Tennessee Valley Authority, where the governor of the state did not even know that a city with a population of 60,000 people had been built in his state. And this is in the 1940s. 1940s. This is, 60, almost 70 years ago. And if you don't think the very same type of activity is going on, you start to look at things like the CERN particle collider in Switzerland, to where under President Bush, I believe, as governor of Texas, our own accelerator, or accelerometer, nuclear particle accelerator in Texas, a multi-billion-dollar project, was shut down. And when you start to see this imbalance, not only in our schools, our universities, our technologies, our industries being created artificially with not only outsourcing, issues of immigration, even in Europe, the principles in quote-unquote Greater Germania used the Visigoths and the Vandals, a group of people, a type of people, to disperse them or carry on a diaspora to inhabit and immigrate and infiltrate and carry on just by trying to survive, find food, find work, doing what most people do, a way to attack and weaken other countries. And the very same tactics are being used here in the United States. And you have to be careful, because many of these tactics are also used as a double-edged sword. As an example, the quote-unquote anchor baby issue of Mexicans or illegal immigrants from not just Mexico but other countries coming into the United States, trying to gain citizenship by having their baby here in the United States and having the baby be a natural-born citizen. When you attack that, not only the defenseless baby, no matter what nationality they were born here in the United States. It's an issue of border control, border patrol, immigration, and more, excuse me. But when you attack this defenseless baby, and pretty much their family, their parents are pretty much defenseless when you think about it, compared to either corporation or strong central government. When you take away the rights of that baby and make it an issue of race and go towards the issue of hatred and not think it through, you set a very bad precedence, so that when the rights of that quote-unquote so-called anchor baby are taken away, the rights of every natural-born citizen in the United States can be taken away just as easily. And who is interested in that? Foreigners and those who serve the foreign royal families, who have detested and protested and contested everything that we have done since we declared independence here in the United States, since we established a constitution and a system, a rule of law rather than a rule of men, to where we all, no matter if you find yourself in the seat of president or any position in the executive branch or in Congress or even as a judicial officer, all must abide by the law and all must bear the consequences of those laws. And what has happened is we are now living in a lawless state, to where we are clearly under, and they are pushing for military dictatorship, the need for it, so that people will say, protect me, protect me, protect me. And as Ben Franklin said, those who give up a little bit of their, or some of their liberties for security deserve neither. Meaning that, you don't deserve liberty or security if you give up your liberties for security. And we should not, must not hand these over to other people. Not only do we need to protect the polls right now, there are games afoot that few comprehend. Even Karl Rove is a low-level player in some of the politicking that is going on here in the United States. And this goes back to Machiavelli and others. This has been going on for thousands of years. These are tactics that have been handed down through families, ancient royal families of Europe, who are intent on restoring the United Kingdom. And I have brought up on other shows about all the individuals who have been knighted, not only Ronald Reagan, George Herbert Walker Bush, and others, but people look to President Clinton and say, well, at least he wasn't knighted. He was nominated for the Lord Warden of the Cinque Ports, which is the highest title bestowed by the Queen. He did not get it. He did not accept it. It went to a Lord Bryce, I believe, he's an admiral in England. But the point that he was even nominated for, you have to really look at who Bill Clinton is. Not only that I believe he's related to the first governor of New York, Governor Clinton, and one reason why we find Senator Hillary Clinton, as a senator from New York. But Bill Clinton was also a Rhodes Scholar. And the Rhodes Scholarship was set up by Cecil Rhodes, English, who was, of course, backed by the Queen, and who was tied to the De Beer diamond mines, not only in South Africa, but in Canada as well. And Canada remains to be a constitutional monarchy. Everything, and I mean everything, that we're dealing with today relates back to the self-appointed royal family rule. And you can look at guys like Congressman Duncan Hunter from San Diego. He had put in his presidential bid as the for GOP, along with Giuliani and others. When he was running for office and still in the fray, he went to set up his son to take over his congressional seat. That is royalism. That is feudalism. We do not pass on titles like that, especially public titles. But what has happened is even the antitrust laws that are to prevent this in corporations as well, so that we are not passing on and creating enormous private trust by guys like former Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist, who is a supposed Christian, a supposed doctor who has some kind of a quote-unquote Hippocratic oath, to not injure a patient. His brother and his father stole billions of dollars from the U.S. Treasury through Medicare and Medicaid, had to pay back $1.7 billion. These are the kind of robber barons who are tied to a bunch of German industrialists who want to push us into war once they have taken over the unions, basically destroyed the unions. We used to have as much as 33, as high as 38% union membership here in the United States to collectively enforce and protect union contracts, every line item. Now it's down to as little as 7% by some estimates, others more in the range of around 9%. These are the things that were attacked in Germany, and they were attacked by the royal families because they don't want any level of opposition. They want us to live as serfs, peasants, vassals, indentured servants, slaves to their whims. And that is exactly what is going on once again here in the United States. And when you start to look at the lineage of these people who were involved, I brought up Admiral Allen, his wife Pamela Hess, and others. When you start to look at what the Coast Guard is up to, and even Admiral Loy and Integrated Coast Guard Systems, Blackwater, Eric Prince, we have created not just a military-industrial complex on the public sector side as a form of public trust and or public service. Now the entire machinery is being privatized to where it is not working for the people at large. It is working for a very select group of individuals who have made themselves as self-appointed royals to lord themselves and rule over the rest of us any way that they want. We can see even in this latest debacle with AIG and Morgan Stanley and the $700 billion bailout, Henry Paulson and more, the terms of that agreement were take it or else we're going to be in a world depression and no oversight, congressional or otherwise, take the law as drafted, no changes to it. They're basically holding us hostage, much like they did for the Patriot Act. People, I ask you to start supporting programs that are out there, informational and otherwise, people who are out there, individuals who are out there, who are not only trying to get the truth out, but discuss these matters and explain these matters to the rest of us. You can look to the alternative media, not only on the internet, AM, FM, XM, Sirius, and other places, even on YouTube and Google and on the internet, individuals who are trying to explain to us that what is going on is history repeating itself. And right now, just like in our own Civil War, and even in World War I and World War II, we have individuals like Henry Kaiser, who was a German shipbuilder, steel manufacturer, and more, who's tied to Weyerhaeuser and others. Henry J. Kaiser gave us Kaiser Permanente, an HMO, a health management organization, that is set up not necessarily to provide health care and medical benefits, but to control it with central planning, central regulation, central administration, to profit as much from providing not just whether it be railroads or shipbuilding or cannons or missiles or jets, but healthcare the very same way that these individuals profit from war. And it starts with shaving a little bit off the top, just like a tithing of sorts, or a tax, taking 10%. They're happy with that to get the system going. And then eventually, like our entire medical healthcare industry, which was sponsored and paid for by employees, by laborers, where individuals paid and said, instead of taking a pay raise of $5 an hour, the companies came back to them and said, hey, we'll give you a $10 an hour increase, but we'll give it to you in medical benefits. So the hourly increase, the wage increase that was to go to the employees was actually used to fund and as a funding vehicle to fund and pay for our entire medical industry. And when you look at that, Geico, it's a insurance company, right? Well, Geico stands for Government Employee Insurance Corporation. And this company was started much like Sarah Palin's claim to fame, and this is corporatism, fascism. The Heath Candy Bar Company that Sarah Palin is related to, heiress to Heath family, was started with a federal contract in the middle of war to provide candy bars to the soldiers. It is exactly what went on in Rome, and is the very same thing going on here in the United States. And when you look at the growth of other things like the ECW, gambling, casinos, Vegas, and more, much of this is intended and constructed to attack the income and the reserves of individuals so that you can't afford to stop and think and even read about what is going on in the United States and how it does relate back to history. One of the first things that President Bush did when he came into office was to set up and establish a quote-unquote coliseum in D.C. by bringing the baseball team, the U.S. or the Senators, into I believe it's the National League, into professional baseball. If you look at his background, he was also involved with the Rangers and other things when he was, or before he became governor of Texas. When you look at these things and parallel them to what went on in Rome, you can see that what is going on is not good. We do not make a lot of things here in the United States anymore. It has become a predominantly service-based industrial nation to where we provide services rather than making things here in the United States. Even Ford, GM, and others have outsourced much of their production. We see some of the stuff going on with like the Chevy Volt, issues of global warming. Global warming is nothing but a marketing scheme. And yes, there is global warming going on. And yes, it has happened throughout history. I believe whether it's being caused by the solar winds to an extent, and or the weakening of the electromagnetic field around the Earth, as in the Van Allen belts, and because of the weakening of the Arctic caps, the Arctic and Antarctic polar caps, and the weakening of that electromagnetic force field that protects the Earth, no matter what the cause, whether it's human production and pollution or something more natural, we are being bamboozled to where the corporations are taking this over as a marketing scheme, just like they did with Y2K. And you can see, I'm waiting for T. Boone Pickens to come out with an ad campaign for the financial collapse, the $700 billion debacle that we're in right now. We need to start reading, we need to start paying attention, and we need to seize control of the local government, city, state, federal, and get people who represent the American people, of, by, and for the people, and who do not like Jane Harmon. She is related to the Harmon-Kardon dynasty, for want of a better word. These people are looking out for the interest, just like John McCain, just like Sarah Palin, and even to some degree, even, yes, like Obama, Barack Obama. When you look at Barack Obama, his mother, Ann Dunham, a white woman, is related to royalty. These individuals are being handed to us by foreign royal powers. Roosevelt was given to the United States as a capstone upon the populist movement that arose not only after the Civil War and things that gave us acts like posse comitatus, because the North tried to use the military to impose itself upon the South in Reconstruction, which is it's unconstitutional. That's why we have police, and they're not supposed to be used. We're not supposed to use the military as a police force. But since then, in the 1880s, 1890s, the Molly Maguires, you've probably seen movies like the Gangs of New York, the Knights of Columbus, and others. Roosevelt was brought in as a capstone upon the populist movement. And again, we are seeing the very same thing. The people are rising up, and we're being handed our quote-unquote savior. And the only way to make any of this work for the people is to hold, whether McCain wins the election, whether Barack Obama wins the election, or whether George Bush openly declares that he is a military dictator and seizes control through some kind of a contrived event and tries to serve into 3, 4, or 5 terms. No matter what happens, the only way it will be steered is by the American people. And we need to step forward. We need to get involved in politics, because politics is about money in your pocket. It's about food on your table. It's about a living wage. It's about being able to enforce your union or other contracts. It's about protecting, you know, even right now we see things going on with this latest financial debacle, to where the rich and the wealthy have been told to break up their bank accounts so that they have no more than $100,000 in their bank accounts in each account, so that it is insured by FDIC. And Polson wants his $700 billion bailout so that the money can go only to the rich, and everyone else, if you've got just under 100,000, then this is your security, this is your retirement, this is your pension, well, you're left holding the bag, and that's it. And that's what's going on. And these individuals are trying to set up a fascist empire here in the United States. Things are already in place to ensure this, and we need to stop it, prevent it, roll back the military-industrial complex, and make it and the technology that it produces work for the American people, and not some elitist form of government, whether it's capitalist or communist or national socialist. There's nothing wrong with central planning, but the control and the enforcement should be local. And that's what we need to gain. Making things more in line and in keeping. I mean, really, the states should be pushing back on any and all of these issues, but even to that, to some degree, goes into the larger issue of everything going on, focusing on and pushing us not only towards world war, but the end result of creating this North American Union here in the United States that will be restored under some form of a monarchy. I ask you to start thinking, start reading, and do something. Get out and become active. Thank you. My name is Lieutenant Eric Schein. This is In the Zone.